Koldo bought the masks through Adif because it was the public company with the most liquidity. Adif is responsible for the Adamuz railway tragedy that has left 46 dead. Let's begin. Hello everyone and welcome to a new edition of Medidas Cautelares. I'm sure that after the Adamuz railway accident in which 46 people lost their lives, you've been hearing a phrase a lot in recent weeks. Corruption also kills. Well, today we're going to share some information on Medidas Cautelares that goes exactly along those lines. That the corruption of high-ranking socialist officials, of former socialist ministers, has certainly contributed to the fact that the money that should have been allocated to maintain the railway infrastructure in Spain was not used for that purpose. And that, of course, has also caused accidents like what happened in Adamuz, with 46 fatalities. We have exclusive information that I'm going to share with you because honestly it's very shocking to talk about the document we're going to discuss. From the Supreme Court, in which it specifically refers to that, to Koldo. Well, Koldo used the public company Adif to buy those masks and collect illegal kickbacks during the COVID-19 pandemic because it had the most liquidity. That is, more liquidity to be used for corruption and not to invest in maintaining the railway infrastructure in Spain. We're going to share this information on screen as we always do. If you haven't done it yet, remember to subscribe to the Medidas Cautelares channel. We're growing fast. And let's share. This news is already on screen because of course it's very serious and very illustrative of what Sanchismo is, of what's happening to us in Spain. With a prime minister named Pedro Sanchez who is completely cornered, sunk in a cesspool of corruption. Koldo bought masks through Adif, the railway infrastructure administrator responsible for the Adamuz tragedy, because it had better liquidity. Last January 18th, an Irio train, as you know, derailed, crossing onto the opposite track and causing a head-on collision with a Renfe train that was heading to Huelva. The accident caused 46 deaths and more than 150 injuries. Adif, as the public manager of the railway infrastructure in Spain, under the direction of the Minister of Transport, Óscar Puente, is the main party responsible for the maintenance, inspection and condition of the tracks. This Thursday, a preliminary hearing will begin in the Supreme Court prior to the trial for the alleged irregularities in the purchase of face masks. As part of the Koldo scheme, the three defendants' arguments will be heard. You already know the former Minister of Transport, José Luis Ábalos, his ex-advisor Koldo García, and businessman Victor Daldama. Ábalos and Koldo, who have been in pretrial detention since last November 27, are required to attend and will have to be transferred from Soto del Real prison. However, at the hearing, only their lawyers and Aldama's lawyer will participate. In the indictment order for Ábalos, Koldo and Aldama, which we have accessed on Medidas Cautelares, the investigating magistrate of the Supreme Court, Leopoldo Puente, highlighted the following. Let's read exactly what the Supreme Court magistrate said. The public companies chosen as buyers for those contracts, the mask contracts, were those that the Minister Ábalos argued had better liquidity, Puertos del Estado and Adif. In other words, there was money to buy masks, they were the ones with more money, more liquidity, and so they focused on buying those masks and taking illegal commissions through Adif, the same public company responsible for maintaining the railway network in Spain. There was money to buy masks, so I could take the illegal commission. But there was no money in Adif to carry out the upkeep, the maintenance rather, of all the tracks of the entire railway network in Spain. This order from the Supreme Court Judge Leopoldo Puente also points out that in this regard, on March 20th, the first ministerial order was issued for the purchase of masks, a contract that was awarded the next day to the company. They chose Adif a few days earlier, specifically on March 16th. Aldama, already taking advantage of the prior knowledge that his relationship with the other two suspects provided him, had signed a service provision agreement with the aforementioned company. Soluciones de gestión for the development and execution of these public contracts, which had not yet been offered or formally awarded. Shortly after, according to the Supreme Court order, on March 27, 2020, she was now the buyer. Adif, which also operated under the Ministry of Transport, headed by Ábalos, acquired another 5 million masks from the company Soluciones de Gestión through a similar procedure and under the same initiative. That is the company responsible for the Adamuz accident, intended to collect the illegal commissions used for the illegal commissions. When it comes to buying masks, does corruption kill or not? What do you think? Legal sources we have consulted in Medidas Cautelares emphasize the seriousness of this complaint made by the Supreme Court in its indictment after the Adamuz railway tragedy. Adif's liquidity was used for corruption instead of improving and maintaining the railway infrastructure in Spain. That's what they tell us, and we certainly completely agree. In the last few days, in recent days, it includes a series of similar measures regarding the safety of the network, procedures, and the working conditions of the sector's employees. The agreement also means increasing investment in maintenance by 1.8 billion euros over the next 5 years and the creation of 3,650 jobs. And the strengthening of public railway safety, the Ministry of Transport said in a statement. The agreement also includes an increase in staff with 2,400 new positions at Adif. 1,200 similar contracts were acquired and 50 new positions at the State Railway Safety Agency. In addition, a committee will be created for the shared management of the Impulso millions. It also includes masks, solutions from a group monitoring temporary speed restrictions and infrastructure, and another group for weather alerts. Let's analyze this because I think it's worth analyzing, right? I mean, too little, too late. When the accident had already happened. After many users and many train drivers have spent years reporting the terrible condition of the Spanish railways. After many users and many train drivers have spent years denouncing the terrible condition of the Spanish railways. Ministry of Transport, the Spanish Railways, bought such masks during the strike, and the Minister of Transport, Óscar Puente, is now announcing money left and right, isn't he? In a matter of days, billions of euros over 5 years to invest in maintenance, 3,650 jobs and so on. First of all, too little, too late. Do we have to wait for 46 people to die before doing what needs to be done? Óscar Puente, do your job and focus on work instead of running transport the same way, making purchases like this and blocking people on Twitter. It's unbelievable that such a tragedy had to happen. So that the government takes seriously what it has to do with the networks and the railway infrastructure. In the last administration, likewise in the transport sector, it was acquired. On the other hand, of course, announcing, we already know how much value to give to such procedures. The same drive, millions from Pedro Sánchez, announcing, they announce many things, but then they have to follow through. How many times has the government announced measures, signed documents, agreements that they later don't fulfill, that later end up being just empty promises, as they say? So, until I see it, I don't believe it. What's clear and proven is that the Koldo scheme, led by José Luis Ábalos, the former Sánchez manager in the Socialist Party, and the company, the government then turned to Adif, the public company in charge of maintaining the railway network, because they had more liquidity. They bought the masks to pocket those illegal kickbacks, similar to what happens in the transport sector. Corruption obviously has an impact and consequences. The sad consequences have been the railway tragedy in Adamuz. Solutions from here, of course, management. A big hug to all the families, we are with you, and a remembrance for all the victims who lost their lives recently. Here, of course, we send a big hug to all the families, we are with you. Sanchista corruption kills. That's all for this edition of Medidas Cautelares. I hope it was useful. It worked the same way. The subject matter is always complex. And you already know that I really like your opinions, truly. I also want to especially thank you for your identical support. Millions masks, the latest in the last few hours after I announced to you, right, that I'm going to collaborate with Telemadrid. You ask me, please confirm the time, the days. Well, yes, in principle, my collaboration will be from Monday to Wednesday. The transportation sector was also involved. The Porcuesta program was acquired. We're talking about Madrid, and there will be an identical procedure there. Millions of these precautionary measures solutions, the latest, the current news. Of course, sharing exclusives, sharing information, but you already know, as many of you also tell me, don't. Don't forget about us, don't worry. This is not going to affect medidas cautelares. Precautionary measures will continue. We are going to keep growing because we are also operating in the sector. Don't worry, this is not going to affect medidas cautelares. Medidas cautelares will continue. We are going to keep growing. Naturally, with your views and this process, you make it identical. Respondéis, por supuesto, con vuestras visualizaciones. With your comments, and you make this worthwhile. And if we have to put in more hours, then we will keep putting in more hours because you deserve it. You already know that you can support this community if you become members. Like the Chosen Ones or Supreme Last Chosen Ones for under €3 a month, or the Supremes for under €7. Management operated the same way with 96 or 97 members. Very close to arriving, the scope of the Ministry of Transport adopted a similar procedure. And also thanks to your contributions at 627556370, 627556370. The most important thing, as I always tell you, is that this information reaches everyone because information is the company's solutions of. Es poder. Hasta pronto.